So all these fittings have to come off. They want all these holes filled because they've got different curtains going up there, so I'll give those a sand and use spack filler on those. So those fittings have got to come out. Not sure where those, I think those curtains are going back, but they want those out. Generally you take any of those fittings and that off. Leave the holes there and then you'll get a good run when you're painting. I use a Makita. It's a neat little tool, this one, lithium ion, a couple of batteries, and just get all the little bits in that I need for it. This one's one of those square jobbies. Just like that. Yeah, just like that. So when I'm masking, I use one of these. These are a lot easier to use. I used to use a 3M jobby, but I use that with the paper. This is a 3M jobby here, little contraption, expensive little dude. We used to mask up whole houses before we sprayed with this unit, but coming to Australia I discovered this. They come in different sizes, 2.5, 2.8 I think, 1.8, little half metre jobbies. They're really good. They've got an edge on them so you can rip it off. So I'm going to mask this wardrobe here so I don't get any paint splatters on. When I secure the top, this one goes down 1.8 metres. What I normally do is secure those with a bit of tape down the bottom. That's pretty good for now. That's about all I need. The top's rough, so I'll just put a drop sheet on top, and that'll protect from any paint that comes down from the ceiling. We use the same stuff here to mask up windows, the kitchen. I do kitchen cupboards, anything. Often I mask up the fly screens as well, especially on the outside if you're working on the eaves and that, and if you get a bit of paint on this fly screens, it's a big hassle. Although I replace fly screens as well, that's something I do. I redo the mesh in the fly screens. The holes that have edges on, any surfaces that have got old enamel, always place to run the sandpaper over and run your hand over it just to make sure there's no lumps down in there. Fill all the holes that need filling. Run your hand over it, make sure you've got a smooth finish there. Fill any gaps. So that air conditioner, I normally cover that with plastic as well, plastic film, because you don't want any splatters on that. See this bed I've covered with a drop sheet. Now I have a plastic back drop sheets. I've got those all over the floor as well, plastic drop sheets, plastic backed. The standard drop sheets, you've got a double drop sheet, because if you don't, you end up with paint going through. When you stand on it, it goes through into the carpet and all that, which is a big hassle. So you don't want that happening, so you've got to drop sheet the whole place out. Plastic wrap, anything that you don't want covers on. Generally on the ceiling I take that shade off so I can get right around. Some instances I actually unscrew the fitting so that I can get underneath it. There's a plastic on there, underneath's okay. At the top is the bit you want to protect on that air conditioner, because when you're rolling up there you get splatters on it. Windows are all okay. I don't worry too much about covering the windows on the inside unless I really have to. I'll make sure I get any paint off that. When I'm gapping, I use a non-drip gap gun. These ones are pretty good. They're about 20 bucks. That means when you pull the trigger off, it doesn't keep dripping no gaps all over the place, which is a big hassle. The standard ones that are no drip, that are drippy jobs, you've got to release this trigger every time just to take the pressure off, to stop the no gaps from coming out all over the floor and getting stuck on your socks and your pants and whatever on the carpet. Any stuff like that on the aluminium I try and clean off before I actually get paint on there. That's the previous painter. Didn't do a very good job, so I clean that off and then I run a no gaps line along there, a straight one. Often you can tape it, leave a little gap and just run some no gaps in between, which is actually good. I use that method often around windows. Tape it up if you really want a pristine job. Otherwise you can run a line across there which is straight enough. Looks pretty good, which I'll do here. And the same as when I'm doing feature walls. I will run a tape down the edge. No gap that tape, and then I'll put the feature wall paint on there first. Down the line down there, and take it off while it's still wet, because then it doesn't stick or pull or anything like that, and you get a really straight edge, really straight line. I no gap all the skirting as well, and I often do that join. Often there's a hole, there's a gap in the join in between the plasterboard. I will gap that as well, and then you run a sponge down and clean the gap off, any excess no gaps, and it should look like that pretty much. So when you get paint on there, that's all covered and sealed and there's no cracks. That's a beauty. You don't want any cracks like that. Up the top there, that's a big crack. We've got to cover that up. Top ledge of window frames, top ledge of doors. I sponge that off, get the dust off. It's a nasty place. A lot of painters leave it. I gap that, because then it's a good cleaning service later on. You don't get rubbish and that getting in behind you, because often there's big gaps on the top of all these frames. So that's the top of the window, and often the top of the door frames as well.